It's too nice to be inside. What a glorious day. Just to be outside and not inside four walls. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. I've come to realize how much I miss routine. Let me give you an example. I'm a big baseball guy. Right now, at this time of year, I'm getting up in the morning and I've got ESPN on and I'm checking scores. I've got my phone and I'm looking at how my Red Sox did and the Pirates. And then by the end of the day, I'm with Pardon the Interruption. And then in the evening, I'm listening to baseball games from MLB radio. That's all gone. That routine that structures my day. I know it's nothing major. I get that. There's a lot worse things going on. But routine, we are a people of routine. We are a people of ritual. Probably even now, you've fallen into some new routines. Not necessarily ones you want to keep for long, not necessarily ones that are all that healthy sometimes or exciting, but we are people who are tied to routine and to rituals. It's important for us because it gives us a sense of structure. It gives us something to focus upon. And that's what I want to be able to address to you this day. You recognize that? I'll try not to talk over it. You recognize the sound of that bell? If you worship here at St. Luke, you know that when that bell rings, we are being invited to come in to worship. The sound of that bell causes us to say it's time to pause from the normal routines of life and to come into the presence, to stand before God, if you will. That bell is what stops us and reminds us of what truly is important. Yes, the bell was a setup. You know that. But it's a teaching point because for a long time, there were in centuries past what was called fixed hours of prayer. I've been trying to share with you in some previous posts ways to enter into a deeper prayer life. And I would offer you today to practice the discipline of fixed hours of prayer. I read to you from Daniel 6, verse 10. When Daniel knew that the document was signed, he entered his house and he continued kneeling on his knees 3 times a day, praying and giving thanks before God as he had been doing previously. Daniel observed fixed hours of the day. 3 times he observed these moments of prayers. It was part of his custom. It was part of his routine, if you will. I believe that we as a people who are lacking a sense of focus, who are lacking a sense of routine, this is a perfect time for us to incorporate this ancient discipline of fixed hours of prayer. I know most of you have times of prayer and quiet time in the morning or maybe late in the evening, but fixed hours of prayer are slightly different. Fixed hours of prayer are when we set the clock, we set the alarm on our phone for a certain time, and when it rings, we stop everything. If we're in the middle of a meeting, we ask people to just join us for a moment in prayer. If we're preparing food, we just pray there. It can be a moment of pause for 5 seconds, 5 minutes. There's no prescriptive amount of time, but there is this interruption into our world that calls us, like that bell, to pray. Fixed hours of prayer that call us out of our normal routine of the day remind us of the importance of abiding with God. My prayer life is pretty consistent in the morning. That's not my concern. It's the rest of the day. And so to set my alarm on my phone to a certain time that calls me out of the busyness, out of the clutter of the day, to stand before God can remind me that there's a difference between being and doing. I can get so caught up in my work and my to-do list, but I don't spend time being the child of God that we talked about in a previous devotion. Fixed hours of prayer remind me that amidst all the clutter, all the noise that surrounds me, all the phone calls and emails that I read and listen to, a fixed hour of prayer reminds me about the importance of listening to God. Years ago, I used to go on retreats to Holy Trinity Monastery here in Butler. It's no longer open, unfortunately, but what a wonderful community. I'd go there for a few days, be with the brothers and the priest. But the monastery observed the hours of the day that I've been talking to you about, which meant you'd have breakfast with the men. I'd go about my work to work on sermons and Bible studies, and then the bell would ring, similar to what we began with in this devotion. And when the bell rang, everybody, without exception, was required to go to chapel for devotions, for the hour, to observe the hours. When I would first start there and the bell would ring, I'd go, oh, doggone it. It just felt interruptive. I was just getting into my work. I'd go to chapel, after that, lunch, and then back to work. But in the middle of the day, ding, 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 again. And I thought, oh, really? But along the way, something strange happened. Those fixed hours established a routine, a structure. And it helped me to become more focused and even more productive. Because I knew I had this set time in order to get something done before the bell would ring. I stayed focused. But it also kept me mindful of what was truly important. That's what I'm inviting you to experience and to embrace right now. Would you consider setting your timer, your clock on your phone or whatever, wherever, to a certain time of the day, and when it rings, you pause and you pray. If you're with people, you simply say to them, can we just pause and pray right now? And if they look at you with a quizzical eye, you can just say, you've got a strange pastor that challenged you to do this. What time of the day? It's up to you. It could be 3:16, John 3:16, for God so loved the world. And at that time, you could pray for the lost. It could be 5:17, 1 Thessalonians 5:17, pray without ceasing, just to remind yourself to always be abiding with God. It could be Acts 2:42. They devoted themselves to the apostles' doctrine, to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and the prayers, and you could pray for the church, for the fellowship, for one another. I'm gonna pray at 1:08 for Acts 1:8, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. And at 1:08, I will pray for the work, the mission of the church here, right here at St. Luke, but as it radiates out into this community and into this world. As we begin to establish a new normal, would you consider making part of that new normal a time of the day when you pause and you remember truly what matters, of standing before God and abiding in his love. May God bless you and those you love.